Hi, this is Sriyank Siddhartha and welcome to another video on this amazing channel. This time I have come up with something new, something interesting. We are going to create a full-fledged chat application using Jetpack Compose. And this video is supported by Stream. About Stream? Well, Stream lets you build highly scalable chat application with scalable activity feeds. It takes care of your application security, hosting, and of course, application scaling. So this allows you to focus more on building high quality application rather than focusing on other aspects of building the app. And trust me, you can build chat applications like WhatsApp or even Slack in just few days. Not weeks or not months, just in few days. Not only Android, Stream supports creating applications for iOS, Angular, native Android application in XML, and of course Compose, and it also supports applications for React Native. So let's see what exactly we are going to create in this tutorial video. So we are going to create a full-fledged application, and this will be our login screen, entirely built using Compose. We can allow a registered user to log in as user by using this button, and if the user is not yet registered, then he can log in as a guest user. So if I log in using my registered name, then this will navigate to another screen which will display the list of channels. Now each row over here in this screen is actually a channel, and in each channel we can have multiple members like your friends or family. It's just like your WhatsApp group or groups which you can find on Slack application. From this header icon, if you want, you can create a new channel by entering some name. Then if you enter any of these channels, you can just go there, you can type your message. It will reach all the members of this channel or the group. You can also send some images by selecting it like this, or even you can send some attachments. If you want, you can send multiple attachments like this. Also, you can use the camera application without having to worry about its integration. Stream internally takes care of everything. This is a dummy camera of the emulator. You can take a snap and send it in the group. How cool is that? So basically you can do anything, everything which is usually done in any chat application. You can even long press on any message and react to that message, such as lol, and your reaction will appear here at the top. You can even change your reaction, and if you want, you can actually create a new thread based on this message. So I can just create a new thread, say hi. How cool is this? Send it, and your thread will appear over here like this, thread reply. If you click on this thread reply, it will show you all the chats going on in this particular thread, just like we have in case of Slack application, remember? And trust me, all of these screens are created by just using few lines of code, and it is made possible by using the Stream SDK. And all these screens are 100% written in Jetpack Compose. If you go back, you can even log the user out. If you click on this avatar, it will log out the user. Of course, on clicking the avatar, it should open the profile section of the user, but I have implemented the logout feature there. So just sign out the user and redirect him to the login screen where he can log in again. To create this chat application, we will use 100% Jetpack Compose. We won't be using XML. And we will use MVVM architecture. Within that, we will use view model, shared flow, live data, and so on as per what's best required by our application. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Okay, so let's start by creating our empty compose activity. So go to Android Studio and select empty compose activity. Click on next, and I will name this application as own chat app. So as per your wish, you can name the application whatever you want to, right? So just replace this application name by your desired name. This is my package name, which is unique. Select Lollipop as the minimum SDK and click on finish. Okay, so while our project is getting built, you need to do one thing. Go to getstream.io/try for free. From here, you need to create your 30-day trial account. So anything which says 30-day free trial, which means after 30 days, you need to pay some amount to use this SDK, right? But don't worry if you are creating the chat application for some tutorial purpose, or you want to create application just for your hobby and share the application with your friends. In that case, you can go for the maker account. So the beauty of this maker account is that you can create the account for free and use the Stream SDK even after 30-day free trial has expired. Also, if you are working in a company which has 5 or less team members, or the monthly revenue is less than $10,000, then also they are going to approve your free maker account, right? So I am also using the maker account for this tutorial, but for you, you need to start with this 30-day free trial. And later on, you can go for this maker account, right? So once you enter your email address, organization name, if any, password, and start the free trial, you will be redirected to your dashboard, which will look something like this. So this is your dashboard once you sign in. By default, there will be one application created for you. So this is the application in my case, and associated with your application is your API key. For you, it will be different, so just click on this key. It will be copied to your clipboard. For now, we just need this API key for using it in our application. So now once your project build is completed, I want you to do some project setup. For example, integrating the Stream Chat SDK. So I will go to project level Gradle file first. Now at the time you are watching this video, the Stream SDK supports the Compose version of 1.1.1. So let's change it to this version, and they support the Kotlin version as 1.6.10. I suggest you to use the same Compose version and also the same Kotlin version, which I am using here. And also within build script, you need to add dependencies and add the class path. Well, this is the class path for using Dagger Hilt in our application. So we are going to use the dependency injection of Hilt, right? Which makes our life very, very easy. Now go to your module level Gradle file, and here let's do some changes. For example, let us add the plugins as Kotlin KAPT and also Dagger Hilt plugin. At the bottom, you need to add a few more dependencies. Okay, so I have added the constraint layout to be used in Compose, the dependency for that, and these two belong to the Stream SDK. And at the bottom, I have added the dependency for Dagger Hilt. And rest of the dependencies are by default present in my project, so in case if any of these dependency is missing, then please add them. We might need them in our application. Now in any case, if you feel confused about integrating your Stream SDK, then what you can do is you can go to this getstream.io/chat/compose/tutorial. So in this very simple tutorial using Compose, you will find all the required dependencies as per your Android Studio version. And one thing I missed, which is the dependency to be added within settings.gradle file. So I will just copy this statement, and rest of the dependencies we have already added. Go to your settings.gradle file, and just below Maven Central, just use this jetpack.io. And finally, sync your project. It might take some time, a few minutes, to build your project. Let's close all the Gradle files. And now let's move to our strings.xml. Here I am just going to add two fields. One for the API key and another for the Jwt token, which I will let you know what is it shortly. Again, go back to your dashboard, and from here just copy this API key just beside your application name. Go back to the studio and paste it over here. And now, what about this Jwt token? Let's generate that as well. Well, this token is basically a authentication token which is unique for each user, right? If you have already used the auth token, then you must know what I'm talking about. So again, go back to the dashboard, and now I want you to go to this URL, which you will find inside the documentation. And now from here, you need to go to chat messaging, go to Explorer. Here you will find two tabs, channels and users. Well, what are channels? I will talk about it shortly. Now, the users, for me, I have a couple of, or you can say a list of users which I already created during my development process. So what you can do is you can generate a new user. For you, it should be blank. So just create a new user. I will use my name, Sriyank. Now for this username, if you give a space over here, then it is going to show you the validation warning. The user ID should be, the user ID. The user ID should only contain some alphabet, numbers and special characters such as @ and underscore. So I will keep it simple, just Sriyank said. I will select the role as admin. You can select user or guest as well, but I would recommend admin for now. Let's create the new user. So here the new user is successfully created. You can find the details over here. The role is admin, created and updated, banned or not, online or not, and so on. So I will just copy this user ID, click on it, it will get copied. And then I want you to go to this URL just to generate the Jwt token. Well, I will leave this link in the description. And then navigate to this manually generating tokens. You will by default get this field filled. Now in case if this field is not filled, then like this, then what you can do is go back to your dashboard, click on this icon or the stream icon, this one, and just below your API key, you will find your secret key. Just copy it and don't reveal it to anyone because that's secret. Let's paste that here. And then over here, you need to enter your user ID. In my case, it was Sriyank Sid. So once you type it, you will find the entire Jwt token in front of you. So just copy it. And also make sure you remember your user ID. We will enter this user ID while signing in our application. I will go back to the Android Studio, and right here just paste that token. Make sure you don't put any extra space or edit it. It should be as it is. Okay, so we have now API key and the token in place. And also we know our user ID, which in My case is Sriyank Sid. So please remember your username. We will use it right now. I will close this strings.xml, and now I am going to make some changes in the application, such as I will refactor the main activity and rename it to login activity. In case if this does not change, then just build your project. Okay, so let's take a look at our login screen. So this is what we are going to build. So what I will do is I will first put this logo in my drawable folder. You can download it from the link below, from the source code. I will put it within the drawable folder instead of drawable v24. Great. So here is my file. You can get it from the source code. And then I will start building my login screen. So I will just clean up all the code. And then I will remove this all code within my own chat app theme. And let's create login screen composable. Now to build the layout, I am going to use the constraint layout. Let's use the constraint layout. Use the modifier as fill max size. And use the padding, of course, to give the padding all around, such as from start, let's use 35 dp and end as 35 dp. Now within the constraint layout, I want these elements, right? Such as the image, the text field and two buttons. And also we want a progress bar over here, which will get visible when we are making some API call to the server. So I will now quickly create the constraints such as logo, username text field, two buttons, and at last the progress bar. And use create refs function. Perfect. So let's create this image. Let's update the modifier. Use constraint as logo and then define its constraint. Okay, so this completes our image composable function. Let's move to our this text field. So for this I am going to use the outlined text field, whose value will be actually the username entered by the user. So for that, what I will do is I am going to create a mutable state of object. So for that, of course, I will use var username equal to, or let's use delegation by remember. Great. So in place of value, let's use username, put it on new line, and whatever the user enters as a new value within a text field, we are going to record that, right? So I will use new value as parameter and assign it to our username. Perfect. And of course, let us add more parameters to it, such as label. And how can we forget modifier? Define the constraints. And also, if you want, you can use the keyboard options. So we are done with our text field as well, this one. Now let's define two buttons. Define its constraints as well. Great. Let's replicate this button for the second button and change its text. So I will change the constraint such as this is BTN login as guest, and then change this one to as user. Perfect. And also change the text to guest. Great. Now our last step is to define a progress bar. Now the progress bar is going to be visible when we are connecting to the server or authenticating the user from the server, which might take some time, correct? So what we can do is we can create another state object and call it as show progress. So what I will do is, oh, I think I did some mistake. It should be outside the constraint layout. That's more appropriate. Okay. And similar to this, I will create another state such as var show progress, which will be Boolean, of course. Let's give the initial value as false because by default we are not loading anything, right? So at the end of our composable function, let us use if show progress, and then let us use our circular progress indicator composable function. And within this, let us define our modifier. Looks great for now. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let us run our application and let's see if we are able to get the desired login screen or not. So there we go, our application is up and running and we have got the exact same login screen as we desired. So now corresponding to this login activity, I want to create a view model. And before that, let us create a new package and call it activity and drag and drop the activity within that activity file. And also let's create a new package to store our view models. Let's call it view model and create a new Kotlin file. Name it login view model, of course. and let's extend it from view model. Now, the very basic thing that the Stream Chat SDK requires is the creation of chat client object. So what I will do is I will create a primary constructor over here, and here I am going to create a property of chat client, or you can say client colon chat client. Great. And I'm going to use the dependency injection to inject this chat client in our view model. So let us define some code for to integrate Hilt in our application. So the very first step which I will do is creating a chat application class which will act as our application class. And here I will annotate it using Hilt Android app, which is the basic requirement to use Hilt in our application, right? And then to inject this chat client within this view model, we need to annotate this view model by using Hilt view model. And to make Hilt inject this chat client over here, I am going to create another file of app module. For that, I will define a package of di. And then I will create a Kotlin file of app module. This will be our object app module, which will be annotated by using @module. And also I will install this module into the singleton component :class. Perfect. And within this app module, I will create a function of provide chat client. Well, the code is very similar to what we exactly use in case of basic Hilt application. And then I will return chat client. This is a class which belongs to io.getStream SDK. So I will use this class dot builder function to build it. And now here we need to pass the API key which we have stored within our strings.xml, right? So what I will do is we need a context here. So using Hilt, I will inject the application context first. And then I will use context dot get string r dot string dot API key. Let's import our R. And as a second parameter, you have to pass the application context itself. And then you need to use dot with plugin. And here we need to pass the instance of offline plugin factory. Well, I will let you know what is it shortly. And then I will use the log level, which will help us to debug our application in case we get into any trouble. I will use all here. For production application, you can set it to nothing. And finally call dot build function. And don't forget to annotate this function by using @singleton because we might need this chat client anywhere in our application. So it's better to store that in the singleton component as a singleton instance. So there will be only one instance of this chat client in our application. Okay, so now where we will get this offline plugin factory? Well, for that we need to create another function which will make Hilt to inject this dependency as well. So for that again, let us create another function and call provide offline plugin factory. We would also need the application context here, which will be taken care by Hilt itself. And then let's create this factory by using stream offline plugin factory. And in the constructor, let's use config parameter and use background sync enabled as true, user presence as true, persistence enabled as again true, upload attachment network type. You can use any value. I will use as not roaming. And then the last parameter is the application context equal to context. And don't forget to annotate it using provides. Now, since we don't need the instance of this stream offline plugin factory in other parts of the application, we just need it over here to initialize it, right? So we are not going to annotate it using the singleton annotation. Instead, here just use a second parameter to get this instance over here. Perfect. So we are done. So Hilt will get the dependency injection of this from this function. Once you write the code, just build your project. Because he'll try to generate the file and functions at the compile time. So building your project will do that for you. Okay, so what exactly I have done here? Now, we created this stream offline plugin factory to provide offline support. Well, it basically contains a class offline plugin which employs a new caching mechanism powered by the side effects we applied to the chat client functions. Now, we initialize here the chat client instance using an API key. So once we are done with this file, let's close it and go to our view model. Now let us do something fancy here, such as let us make the user enter a valid username by applying some validation, such as the username should be greater than 3 characters. So for that, let us create a function greater than 3. Or what we can do is we can just create another util package and create a constants class. Create a object class and define the constant. Great, let's use it within our view model. And make sure you give the return type as boolean, of course. Great. And now within our view model, we need to add functionality for these two buttons as well, such as login user as authenticated user. And also we need to make sure if somebody is not registered, then we are going to make that user login as guest. So I will here create a function login user, pass parameters as username, and also I'm going to pass the token which is associated with the registered user. I will give it a default value of null and make it an optional parameter. That is, in case the user want to log in as guest, then in that case it will be null. And we are going to pass the username only to the server. And here we are going to trim the username. Well, this trim function basically removes the trailing or leading white spaces if the user enters some space here just before or after the username. So this function is going to remove that spaces. And then I am going to use view model scope dot launch a coroutine. I will first verify if the username is valid or not by using the isValidUsername function. And at the same time, I am going to verify if the token value is not null. This means the user is registered, or maybe he's trying to log in using this button. In that case, we are going to call a function which we will create shortly, login registered user, and pass the token as well. Or else if the user is logging in as a guest, in that case we can again verify this condition, such as validate the username, and in this case the token will be null for sure. Then we will call login guest user and pass trimmed username as a parameter. Or else if nothing suits, that is the validation fails, in that case we are going to notify the main activity or the login activity in our case that hey, the validation has failed, show a toast message to the user. So for that we are going to create an event, and that event will be created by using the seed class, which will contain the event emission for this case and also when the validation fails. So at the bottom, what I will do is I will just create a sealed class of login event. Well, I am doing nothing great, just very simple way of notifying the activity from the view model. So I will name it as login event and define one object as error input too short. And we will define a data class for the error. If there is some error while logging in or the server sends back the error, in that case we can display the error message using the toast message, right? And at last, the success case. Great, so we got three cases, and these three cases will be applicable for these three cases over here, right? So we are going to create an event, and for that we are going to use the shared flow. So within our view model, let us create the property with the backing field. Name it as login event equal to mutable shared flow and define its property. Great. So this property login event is publicly accessible from outside this view model, and this underscore login event is actually private to this file login view model, right? Which we are going to use to modify the mutable shared flow. So this also ensures that any file or any class outside the login view model cannot modify this login event since it is immutable in nature, right? Because the mutable version is already private in nature. So what we will do is when the validation fails, that is the else part, we can use underscore login event dot emit. We are going to emit login event dot error input too short. And then we will write some code within our activity to catch this event, correct? Using the collect function. But for now, let us create these two functions first. Over here. We can make this function as private. And now the Stream SDK requires you to send a user object to the backend for the user authentication. So there exists a inbuilt user class which we will use to create it, right? So just use user from io.getStream package. And then the required parameter is the ID, of course, which is the username. And if you want, you can also use the name as username itself. That is up to you, just because I am just having the one text field, so I am just using it for the ID. And this is one dummy name. And then we can use client, which is our chat client getting injected in our view model class using the dependency injection, and I guess I forgot to use @inject over here. So let's use that as well and use client.connect user function. So connect user function is basically a function that belongs to chat client, which is going to connect your user and authenticate with the server. So as a parameter, you need to pass the user object, and also you need to pass the Jwt token, which we are receiving as a parameter because this is the token associated with with this user. And then I will call enqueue function. And this function as a callback provides a result. And about this result, it basically belongs to the call interface, which belongs to, I'm sure, retrofit. So internally, the Stream SDK is using the call interface. So here, using this result, I can use if the result is success, then I am going to emit this success event so that login activity would know that, hey, we got successfully logged in. So I will use view model scope dot emit, sorry, dot launch function, and then I will call underscore login event dot emit function, and this time I will pass login event dot success. Great. And in case we failed to log in, such as if there was some problem with the token, which in our case won't be possible because we have hard coded the token, or in case if the user enters the username which is not registered with that token and he is using this button over here, then the server is going to send back the error message, right? So in that case, we are going to use this event and pass the error message to the login activity. So again, I will copy this part and paste it here. And this time I am going to use error logging in. And as a parameter, I am going to use a message such as result dot error function dot message. Now, if in extreme case, if this message is null, then in that case we can display unknown error. Great. So the code is really very simple. And now let's create this login guest user function at the bottom, right after this function. We don't need a token for the guest login, and we can change it to private. And now using the same chat client, we can use connect guest user function this time and pass the user ID as username. And also, if you want, you can also pass the name of the user as username itself, like this. Let's put them in new lines and then call enqueue function. This also returns the same result. And then we are going to repeat the same kind of success or error event like this. So I will copy the if else condition from here and paste it over here. The code remains the same for these two cases. Okay, so I think we are done. Let's execute these two functions which are already in place, and let us execute this function from our login activity. And also make sure we catch these two events, right? So first, let us execute this login user function from the login activity. So let's go to the code of these two buttons. So here is our to do, and this is the button to log in user as an authenticated user. So I will use view model. I think I forgot to initialize our view model in our login activity, so let's do that as well. Okay, so we have got our view model in place. Let us use view model in our button and call login user and pass the username, also the token which we can get by using getString r dot string dot jwt token. Perfect. And I think we have to use username dot text because that is a mutable state object. So this will execute the login user function within our login view model. In the same way, we can use the button for the guest user. And this time we are going to use view model dot login user, just pass the username and that's it. We don't need to pass the token over here because this user is going to be our guest user. Great. So let's do one thing. Let's run the application and see the logcat if you are able to successfully log in or not. Now, before you run the application, make sure you go to chat messaging, explorer, and make sure whatever username you have created, in your case, in my case, it is Sriyank Siddhartha. For this only I have generated the Jwt token. You have to use the same username, right? Because our application right now is in development. Later on, you can integrate your own server or using Firebase, you can generate the Jwt token for each of your user. So right now, let's use this name for my case, and in your case, it will be whatever username you have created. So our application is up and running. Let's use this username and log in as user. I guess there is some problem. And I think this is because of the HILT error. It is unable to create this view model just because I have not annotated this main activity by using @Android entry point. Great. Let's run the application again. Oops, again our application crashed. Again, it is a HILT error. This time due to our application class, I forgot to mention the chat application within the manifest file. So let's do that as well. Great. Let's run the application this time. Hopefully everything will be fine. Okay, let's enter the username as Sriyank Sid. Log in as user. Yes, I think we got success. Yes, we got 200 success message, right? Okay, now let's try to log in by using some other username, such as which is not registered with us. So for that, let us use another name. Let's use Amit and log in as guest. Yes, this time we got a success message again. If you want to be sure that we have logged in as guest or not, you can just go to your dashboard, go to users, and there you will find right above your username you will find two more guests. Well, I clicked the button two times, so I got the guest registered two times. If you look at their names, you will find some random UUID followed by the guest username, which was Amit in our case. And you can see the role as guest. So our application is working perfectly fine right now. We are able to authenticate the registered user and also we are able to perform the guest login. But now let us take a step ahead and try to catch the events which are being generated from our view model, right? From here, from here. So for that, we are going to register our login activity to those events. So for that, we can create a function subscribe to events. Create that function at the bottom, right after the login screen composable. And then we can use life cycle scope and launch a coroutine when our activity is in at least started state. And then we can call viewModel dot our login event dot call the collect function. So this collect function will listen to all the events being emitted from this view model. So let us write our switch case, or we can say the when expression in case of Kotlin. Let's use when event, and let's use event over here as parameter. If the event is login view model dot login event dot error input too short, then we will show a toast message because we have three cases, right? So this is the case for validation. If the user enters the username less than 3 characters. I will shortly create the show toast function. The second case is for error logging in. Here as well we can show a toast message. And of course, from this data class of error login, we get a error message. I think it should be is, yeah. And our third case is the event for successful login. Let's show a toast message here as well. Login successful. Now, now let's create this show toast method right here. Perfect. Now our last step will be for this UI is to show the progress bar whenever the user logs in using these two buttons. So we need to show our progress bar over here. So for that again, we are going to make use of this time live data. And we already have this show progress boolean state in place. So what we can do is we can create a live data within our view model. So over here at the top, right below our mutable shared flow, we can create a loading state event. And also we need to create a seed class to handle this loading state. So what we will do is similar to this login event, I will create another seed class which can emit some event using live data. I will create two events such as loading and not loading. Okay, so let's copy this sealed class and put it as a type parameter over here, and also create a immutable version of this property which will be public in nature. Great. So we need to update the value of this loading state when we are about to make the API call to the server. So within this function of register login registered user and also login guest user, just before connecting the user to the server, we can use loading state or underscore loading state dot value equal to, let's update the value of loading state to loading. Great. And then once the data loads from the server, either it is a success or failure, we don't care about that. We just want to stop the progress bar, right? So for that I will use not loading instead of loading. And similar is the case for this function login guest user. Right before making this API call, let's show the progress bar. And when the result returns or the API call returns, let's use not loading. And let us observe this loading state live data in the login activity. So that we can update our composable function, right? So here as well within our login screen function, we can use view model dot loading state dot observe method. So here we can make use of loading and not loading states to update the show progress boolean value. If the value updated is of loading type, then we can just update show progress to true. The another case is dot not loading. In this case, we can update the value to false. Great. And it is showing us some warning. The assignment can be lifted out of when. So let's use Alt plus Enter and use it this way. Both are equally okay. Great. So when we update the state of loading state, then it is going to execute this function over here, that is update the value of show progress. And once the show progress value is updated, which is a mutable state object, it is going to affect during recomposition the visibility of progress bar in our compose hierarchy. So let's try it out. Let's use the registered username such as Sriyank Sid. Let's log in as user, and there we go, we got the progress bar. And after login successful toast message, the progress bar disappeared. Similarly, we can use some name like this and log in as guest and try this as well. Okay, we got the progress bar. This time our login failed because the previous user was not logged out. Okay, we will take care of that in future. So congratulations, now we can say that our login screen is almost completed. We created a full-fledged view model whose code is right in front of you, and we created the login activity which contains our composable screen. And it is working perfectly fine. So now when the user logs in or as a guest or as an authenticated user, we need to open another activity which I showed you earlier. So what we can do is when it is a success, we can just open our channel list activity which we have not created yet. So within our activity package, let us create a new Kotlin file and name it as channel list activity. Now don't worry, until now the code was quite lengthy because we had to create our login screen from scratch. But from now onwards, until the end of this video, you will find most of the code taken care by the Stream SDK itself. So you don't have to write boilerplate code within this channel list activity. I will show you how. Just a few lines of code and you will be done. And make sure you add this activity in the manifest file as well. Let us use setContent method. Now there is a predefined theme in the Stream SDK to help us render this screen like this. and that theme is actually chat theme. So this chat theme belongs to the Stream SDK itself. It will take care of everything for us. Let's write some code and then I will explain you what we have done here. And then we can use the channels screen composable function. Now this composable function is going to render three parts. The first part is the channel list header, which is the toolbar at the top. It is the header section. The second part is the search input bar, and the third section is the channel list, which displays a list of channels which also supports pagination. And when you select one of these channels, it is going to take us to the chat section where you can actually chat in the group. So this channel screen internally renders all these things. So again, we don't have to write anything from scratch. How cool is that? So now here I will use the title of this screen as channel list. You can name this screen as per your wish. Then we can use is showing search bar as true because we want the search bar as well. Then we can use on item click parameter, which will be executed when you click one of these channels. So we will open another activity. Right now let's leave it blank, and then we can use on back pressed parameter as well. Here I will call finish function. Great. Also, when you come from login activity to this channel list activity, here I forgot to write the intent code, right, to open this activity. So for that, what I will do is I will use start activity, use create a new intent, this at the rate login activity. Let's go to channel list activity. I think it is still showing main activity. I don't know why. Its name has its name is still main activity. So let's do one thing. Let's again refactor it. And of course, build your project again. And then after starting this activity, okay, so now this has changed to login activity, problem solved. Now soon after we open the channel list activity, we can call finish function over here as well to destroy this login activity because we don't need it. Let's go back to our channel list activity, and here as well on press of the back button, we are calling finish function. Now let's talk a little about these channels. What are they? Well, if you go to your dashboard, such as in your Explorer, you will find channels and users. We have already seen how to create a new user, and whenever the user logs in as a guest user, a new user gets created here. So until now, no issue. Now what about this channel? How to create them and what are they? Well, channels are basically like your WhatsApp group or the groups which you find in Slack or the groups which you find in Twitch. So within each of these channel, you can add your members. For example, such as in messaging school group, you will find members which I have already added. And some of them might be blank, such as this hello is actually blank. No members are there. Now you can also add a new channel member from here. You just need to type the exact user ID here and add it. So this dashboard is basically acting as your backend console where you can play around with data, adding members, removing them, deleting user, creating new channel. Now let us create a new channel and let's name it such as American channel. This is the channel ID which will be automatically generated. Now there are basically five types of channel: commerce, gaming, live stream, messaging, team, etc. Right? So gaming channel belongs to the gamers, live stream belongs to live streamers, messaging such as school buddies or college buddies, team, office teams, and some commercial use. So let's use the messaging channel over here. So this American channel is basically a type of messaging channel where you can message each other. The purpose is basically to message each other. Let's create it. So this American channel has been added. Now, to load all these channels in your application, we need to make use of a special parameter of filters within our channel screen. So I will go back to the Android Studio, and in the channel screen, I will use a parameter of filters. And here I will use the default filters dot and now I will pass the field name equal to type. So I am going to update what type of channel I want in my application to load. And then as a second parameter, use values equal to list of. And I will type all the categories such as gaming. Then I want also messaging channel to load in my application. Make sure you type exactly the same. The spelling should be same. And also live stream. And I think this should be, instead of and, I should use in, like this. So our error is now gone. Let us try to run the application and let's see what we get. This is the another application which I previously created. So let's close it. Okay, let's log in by as a guest user. And we are getting all the channels which we saw in our dashboard. Now in your case, if you haven't created so many channels, then you should create it. Now let's create one more channel and let's see if the channel dynamically loads in our application or not. Let's say test channel. Select the type as commerce, create. Okay, we have created it. Let's go to our application. Yes, we got our test channel over here. Now, if you go into this test channel, then I think it is not going to work because we have to write some code here to open the channel, right? So we will write some code over here. So for that, we are going to create another activity where we can actually chat within these groups or channel. Now, before we create another activity, let us comment this filter parameter and let's see without this filter parameter what happens. Let's log in using some dummy name. So we are getting no channels over here because we are not requesting a channel of any type. So it is up to you which type of channel you actually want to load in your application. Right now I am loading all types of channel. If you remove this messaging from here, then it is going to load only these four categories of channel. Correct? So in this way, you can also customize your application by using some kind of sorting mechanism. So let's rerun it. Now also we forgot to test our validation if it is working or not. Let's try to use it. So here it says invalid, enter more than 3 characters. It is an invalid username. Let's try to log in again as a guest. So we are getting back all the channels. Now let us write some code to get into these channels and start chatting. So for that, we need to create another activity as mentioned before. Let's use the name as messages activity. Override the onCreate method, and then I will use again setContent method. And here as well, in Stream SDK, there is a theme which is chat theme, of course. And within chat theme, this time we can use messages screen composable, which is another inbuilt composable function which will render the entire chatting screen for you. So here we can use channel ID, which we will get from our channel list activity. Then we can define the messages limit, which I guess let's keep it 30. Then use on back pressed. Finish this activity. Great. And now let us get this channel ID from this channel list activity when we are opening it. So for that, but before everything, let's go to manifest file and add our activity because I don't want to see another crash. And also make sure you add window soft input mode as adjust resize. So while chatting, this attribute is going to resize your activity for better visibility. Close the manifest file. And now let us use start activity. And for that, this time I am going to use a companion object within messages activity, which will help us to navigate to this messages activity and extract the channel ID. Well, these are all standard things which we follow in any standard application. You will get used to it. Then I will use function getIntent. Return the intent object, pass the context, and use put extra function to pass the channel ID. Okay, so this class wants the channel ID, so let us use this function from here, channel list activity. So I will use messages activity dot get intent and pass the context of this current activity and also pass the channel ID. Channel dot CID, which is being clicked. And this channel is the parameter of this callback. So let us use channel over here like this, or otherwise you can use it keyword over here. Perfect. So now within our messages activity, we should get this channel ID within the onCreate function from the bundle. Let's not take any risk and use if condition for a null check. If it is null, then simply shut down this activity and return. Great. So everything is in place right now. Let's run the application. Let's enter some guest username. Login successful. We got the channel list. Let us go to some channel, and here it says 3 members, 2 online, something like that. So this channel actually contains 3 members. Now the recent channel, which is a test channel we created, contains 0 members. So what we can do is, let us add a member to this channel and let's see if it gets updated or not. And how to add a member to the channel, you can of course use this dashboard. You can go to the test channel, go to members, and there we have no members. So what we can do is go to users, and this is the recent guest login, which is our current login, right? So we can just copy its id from here, go to channels, go to test channel, go to members and add a new channel member. Paste the user id over here. Let's add him. Okay, so this test channel contains 1 member. So now let's get back to our studio. And here we go, we got a online icon over here that members are online in this channel. If you go here, it shows 1 member now, which is me only, the guest user. Perfect. So now we can say hi. We can by default, okay, let's give the photos and media permission. We can send some pictures as well. Great, it is working. What else? Let's send some files. That is also possible. We can select multiple files as well. Great. Everything is working perfectly fine, just like the chat application. And also we can open the camera. Let's try it out. Let's use camera. It's a dummy camera, of course, of emulator. Take a snap. Great. We are able to do everything what we can do in a particular modern chat application like WhatsApp. So all the group members can now read my messages. Perfect. So now, right now, our application looks quite ugly, correct? So let us try to find a way out to customize our application. So let us start with customizing this particular messages activity. So within our chat theme, we can just override the parameters. For example, we can use shapes equal to stream shapes dot default shapes and use the copy function. And within copy, we can override all the parameters such as rounded corner shape as the shape of the avatar. Something like this. And then we can override the attachment shape as well. Let's use rounded corner shape here as well. We can also override the message bubble. Okay. So right now by default, our input field is not rectangle in shape, it is quite oval in shape. So what we can do is, let us try to execute this code and let's see what changes we get. Let us log in as some dummy user, of course. And we got everything rounded maybe. Yes, the avatar shape has changed. This input text field is now rectangle in shape. Let us check the chat bubble. Okay, I don't see any difference because it is already rounded corner shape. So just one line of code and we are able to change anything, everything using the Stream Chat SDK. So we just have to focus on building our rest of the application. The chat screen and the message list screen is everything taken care by the Stream SDK itself. Okay, we will talk more about how to customize your application using Stream SDK after a while. So for now, let's move to the next section of this video, such as how to create your new channel from your application. So for this, I am going to make use of this header action button, which is present over here, top right of the screen. So when I click on this, a dialog will open up. We can enter the channel name and create a channel. For example, let us open my old application. So if I click on this button, a dialog will open up. We can enter the channel name, click on create channel, and a channel will be created and will appear on the channel list. Similarly, we will also implement the logout functionality, such as on click of this header avatar over here on the top left of screen, we will implement the logout functionality. So once I click it, it is going to log out and it will redirect me to the login screen. Great, isn't it? So for this, we are going to move back to our channel list activity and we are going to implement both the functionalities in this activity. So associated with this activity, we need to create another view model which will handle all those operations. So I will create a new Kotlin file, name it channel list view model, create the class, annotate it using @hilt view model because we would need the dependency injection of chat client. Let's create the primary constructor, create our chat client property like this and extend this class from view model, of course. Let's import it. Great. Now let's create a function to create a channel. And as a parameter, we need a few things. For example, such as channel name, of course, of the type string. And also we need the channel type. And let us give it a default value of messaging. So by default, if you don't pass this parameter, the channel type of messaging will be created for this channel name. Next, of course, let us trim the channel name before we process it. Great. And also create a channel ID which should be unique. So if you don't pass the channel ID, then also the stream dashboard is going to create a unique channel ID for you. But I think I should create it. Use random ID dot toString. Perfect. And now let us write some code to create the channel, and for that we are going to launch those operations within the view model scope, within the coroutine scope of this view model. So first let us check if this name is empty or not. If it is empty, then we will simply return. We won't do anything. I'm sorry, it should be is empty. I will return @launch. Great. And I think I should also emit some events from this view model to this channel list activity, just like we did in case of login activity and login view model. So for that as well, at the bottom of this class, I will create a sealed class. And name it as create channel event. And of course, we need a data class of error with a error message. Inherit it from the seed class, and then we need an object for the success. Great. And to emit these events, we need to create a mutable shared flow. So for that, let us create our shared flow. The steps are very similar to what we did in case of login view model. Remember? So this is the immutable version and this is the mutable version, which is actually private in nature, and this is public in nature. So here, when the validation fails, we can emit an event such as create channel event dot emit, and we can emit create channel event dot error, and let us pass the error message. The channel name cannot be empty. We will use a toast message in our activity class to display this message. Okay, so after the validation pass, let us use chat client using the client object and use the create channel method. Now within this function, we need to pass a few parameters. The first parameter is, or first let us check out the documentation. So these are the parameters, right? Channel type, channel ID, all the members you want to include in this channel, and the extra data which can include the URL of image URL of your channel or the channel name as well. So let's pass those parameters such as channel type equal to the channel type which we are receiving as a parameter, and by default its value is messaging. Okay. Next, let us pass the channel ID which we have also created. Great. And then for the members ID, I am going to pass the empty list. Now, if you want, you can copy the ID of the member, put them in a list and send it to the server using this method, right? In that case, whatever channel you will create, all the members which you will pass over here will be automatically added to this channel. But right now, I just want to create a channel with no members. So I am passing members empty list. And then as extra data, which is our last parameter, you need to pass a map object. So I will pass map of and I will pass name to trimmed channel name. So this will create a channel using this name. And then you can also pass the image. Now for image, I am going to use a URL from the stream documentation. So I will just put the link over here. If you want, you can keep it blank as well. There is no harm in that. Just because I don't like my channel with no icon, so I am using a predefined URL over here. And then I can use .enqueue method, which will of course get result in the callback, just like we saw earlier. And then using if condition, we can check if the result is a success. And then we can emit another event such as that of success. So I will use view model scope. Oops. Dot launch. And here we can emit another event, this time of success. Now let us handle the error part as well. That is, something went wrong and server notifies us with what went wrong. So in that case, again, we can launch the coroutine in the view model scope, view model coroutine scope, and emit the error event. And now we can use result parameter dot error dot message. And also in extreme case, if the message is null, then in that case we can just pass unknown error. Great, isn't it? So now we have everything in place. We now need to create a composable dialog within our channel list activity, which we can display on click of on header action click. Let's try to do here. We will display a composable dialog. So for that, let us first create a composable dialog composable function. I will create a function, create channel dialog, mark it composable, and now let us use a mutable state object for channel name, which the user will enter. Let's pass the initial value as blank. Great. And then we can use alert dialog composable function. This alert dialog needs the title. Let us use the title of the dialog as text. Enter channel name. Then after title, let us assign it a text field, and for that we are going to use the text parameter and override its input. So I will use text field here, whose value will be channel name, and on change of the value, let us update the channel name. Great. And lastly, let us add buttons. I will just add one button and wrap it within the row to make it look little beautiful. Let's add modifier and also add the horizontal arrangement. Okay, let's add button. So on click of the button, we are going to execute a function which I will define little later. So just wait for a while. Let us define its modifier. Great. And in the button, let us add a text. Perfect. Now, since this composable function, we need to display this composable function only when the user click on this header action button. Correct? So what we can do is over here, after the chat theme, I am going to define a mutable state object of show dialog. Very similar to what we did in case of login activity to display the progress bar. Remember? Let's give the initial value as false. And now, if the show dialog is true, then only we are going to add the create channel dialog in the composition. And now we also need to do something over here so that the value of show dialog gets updated after the user successfully enters the channel name through this dialog. And also in case the user dismisses the dialog, then also we need to update the state object of show dialog. So what we can do is as a parameter, we are going to pass a function. So here as well, let us define a parameter such as dismiss parameter. What happens when the user dismiss the dialog after entering something? So we are going to pass back the event. And in place of to do, let us use dismiss and just pass channel name as parameter. Let us copy this function from here and paste it over here in case of button on click handler, right? And let us create this dismiss function over here. So here we can use dismiss equal to, let us create our function as a parameter, let us use text or let's say channel name. And then we can use show dialog equal to false. So this is going to dismiss our dialog. Now what about this channel name? We are going to use it shortly. But before that, on click of this header action button, we also need to update the show dialog state object to true. So when this value will change, the recomposition will be done. In that case, this will become true. Yes, true. And then we are going to add this create channel dialog in our composition tree. Perfect. And now we need to call this function of create channel by using the view model instance. So for that, within our activity, we are first going to annotate it by Android entry point and then initialize the view model. Nice and simple. And then here we are going to call view model dot create channel and pass the channel name. Great. So let us now run the application and see what we get. Let's enter username. Shrink said in my case, in your case, you enter yours, whatever is registered. Let's click on this button. Okay, we got the dialog. Let's enter something. Let's use WFH this time. Create the channel. Now let's go to Explorer. Let's go to channel. And here we go, we got the WFH channel created in our Explorer. Now, for simplicity, this list should automatically get updated, right? But it is not getting updated automatically. So what we can do is, once we log into application again, then we are able to see that WFH channel created in our channel list. But I think there should be a way to update the channel list, but I am not sure I know it. So please go through the documentation and check how to do it. Anyways, now we are emitting few events from our view model. So let's try to catch them and update the UI, such as showing the toast message in our activity. So for that, what we can do is we can create a similar function in this activity as well, such as subscribe to event over here. And then within the scope of this activity lifecycle, let us launch a coroutine with the condition launch when started. So we will use our view model dot create channel event dot use the collect function. And here we will get event as parameter, of course. And we have two cases here, if it is an error or success. If it is an error, then let's extract the error message. And we will show a toast message, just like we did before. Similarly, for the case of success, let us show a toast message. Great. And at the bottom, let us write the show toast function like this. Perfect. So now we can check if this code is working or not. But before that, let us call subscribe to events from our onCreate function. Perfect. Launch the application, log in, let's try to create a blank channel. Okay, the channel name cannot be empty. We got a toast message. So this function subscribe to events is working and we are also able to successfully emit the events from our view model. Nice and simple. Now let us take a step ahead and try to log out the user. On click of this avatar over here. Well, you can define another mechanism to log out the user, but just to save time, I am using this functionality. So for this as well, Stream allows us to implement the on-click listener on that avatar using on header avatar click listener. So here as well, so here what we can do is we can just call view model dot logout function, which we have not created yet. So let's create this logout function within our view model. So the code within this function will be very simple. We just need to use client.logout. I'm sorry, disconnect function. Great. So this will disconnect the user from the current session. And once the user logs out, what we can do is we can actually destroy this current activity because we don't need it, correct? And at the same time, we can relaunch the login activity. Great. Let's launch the application again. Okay, so now let's click on this icon. Yeah, we were able to log out successfully and we got login screen opened in front of us. But I wish there should be some callback method associated with this disconnect function so that we can emit some events to know if the logout was successful or not. But anyways, it's fine. Now, there is one more thing which I forgot to show you, which is already there and has been implemented internally. So if you go to the messages activity, for example, then you can also long press on any message and leave a response to a specific message like this, just like we do in case of WhatsApp or even Slack. Similarly, here as well, you can leave another response, or you can even delete a message or edit the message or even start a thread reply related to this particular message like this, such as too cool. Great. So this is going to start a new thread reply in another screen. Let's go back and here it shows just below this photo a thread reply. If you click on it, it is going to show what are the chats going on in this thread. Great, isn't it? Now so far so good. We have created this application and implemented it in no time. Now, how to further customize your application? For example, if I want to customize the messages activity, then we have already done some customization using these parameters. But suppose I want to customize the entire messages screen as per my own theme and branding, as per my own organization. In that case, what you can do is you can just comment this whole part, such as this messages screen composable, and here I am going to create my own custom screen, which is of course a composable function. So I will just copy it and paste it over here, create a function, mark it composable. Now to save time, I am not going to type the entire chat screen which you can see in front of you, right? So what I will do is I will just show you the quickest way to customize your screen. So just go to this URL, and down below you will find the real quick way to create your chat application using Compose. Well, we have followed all these steps but in our own way. We have implemented the login screen, created our own architecture, and so on. So what we have not done here, I will just show you how to customize your screen. So if you go down, such as chat message customization, then you will find there is another way to customize your entire chat screen. Now, if you ask me, why should you actually write everything from scratch? That is, create all the components from scratch. Well, you don't have to create all the Compose components from scratch because the Stream SDK already contains all the required view models, like you can see here. And along with this, it also contains the inbuilt components such as message composer, message list, which you can also customize further. So basically you don't require to write everything from scratch, but if you want more control on customization, then you can use the code from here. So I will just copy these factory and the view models and paste that at the top of this activity over here, like this. And of course import everything. And please select everything from io.getStream package. Great. If you want the help for the imports, you can also copy the imports from here. And now let us copy the entire my custom UI function and paste that in place of this function which we just created over here, like this. And also, since there are a lot of imports, so I will just copy the imports as well, just to save time, and paste it at the top over here. Great. So all the error are gone, and replace this by my custom UI, or just copy this function name and rename this function. Great. So this entire function, which is of course of 100 lines, is almost same as this 4 lines of code over here. So the purpose of using this my own custom screen composable function is to give you more control over the elements, such as you can modify your box, your scaffold, your message list. Then this is something related to attachments, for displaying attachments. Then this part is related to showing an overlay when you select a message, using which you can reply to a thread, and so on, right? So if you run the application right now, go to your messages screen or the chat screen, then you will find a little change in your UI, such as header is now gone. We have to add that, in our custom UI Composable. So accordingly, you can customize your UI as per your brand value. Now there are a lot more things which we can do in our application, but I think I should wrap this video here only. But if you want to know more about how to customize everything in your application, then you must go through the documentation of Stream. Such as you can go to the Android documentation and go through everything such as overview, then the documentation for the UI components which belongs to the native Android application using Kotlin, and at the bottom you will find Compose UI components, how to customize each component which you can use while using the Stream SDK. And in the documentation as well, you will find a lot of information about how to create tokens, learn about authorization, then how to manage users. Then we have certain permissions which you can use in your application, what are the different channel types. Then we have the documentation too, which talks about how to create channel. I have used related to creating channels from here, right? Then how to update a channel, which we have not added in our application. You can add this functionality as well. Then how to deal with messages, what formats are supported. So basically their documentation is very clean and quite effective. It did not take much time to go through their documentation and create the application which we just created in this video. So everything you will find in their documentation. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and please do let me know how was the video. So this is Sriyank Siddhartha signing off. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.